So the last time I did this comparison, I got a few comments claiming that it was unfair. That I was comparing the 2018 OnePlus 6 versus the 2017 iPhone 10. To that I thought, well, it was unfair in both ways. Yes, the iPhone 10 was 6 months older, but the OnePlus 6 was half the price. So now that the models have been updated, dates have changed, and prices have not, how about if we try this one more time? I'm Jaime Rivera with Pocketnow, and this is OnePlus 6T versus iPhone XS. In the United States, iPhones are popular. All it takes is to see a product launch to notice just how much people will line up in a store and buy them. But what I wasn't really prepared for was to see just how popular OnePlus was as well. I had the chance to spend some time at the T-Mobile launch on Monday, and boy, was it packed. The biggest question is if you're really getting $500 more of a phone in the iPhone XS when compared to the OnePlus 6T, and from a hardware perspective, I say you aren't. Apple claims that you get the hardest glass on a phone on its iPhone XS, but then provides no certification information for us to measure it, while the OnePlus 6T sports the latest and greatest Gorilla Glass 6. Yes, I will give Apple points for its stainless steel chassis, which we know is stronger than the aluminum on the 6T. I'll also give Apple points for the color options like gold, silver, and space gray, with the 6T only offering 2 different shades of black at the time of this comparison, even if I do prefer the matte finish on the midnight black variant of the latter. I'd still recommend that you use a case on both, on the iPhone mainly because its side camera bump is a design aberration that'll wobble on a table in the most annoying way, and in the case of the 6T simply because OnePlus has some of the coolest case options that really complement the phone. The OnePlus 6T is a larger phone when compared to the XS. It's actually 14mm taller, 4mm wider, 1mm thicker, and 8 grams heavier. It also has a larger 6.41-inch display versus 5.8, though both devices sport OLED technology. It's hard to call any of these displays better, but I will call the OnePlus more saturated while the iPhone is more natural. The iPhone also has more pixel density at 458 ppi versus 402 on the 6T. The iPhone also sports more certifications and features like Dolby Vision, HDR10, the DCI-P3 color gamut, True Tone capability, 3D touch, and 120Hz touch sensing, while the OnePlus 6T only claims the DCI-P3 color gamut and that's it. The iPhone also has some of the loudest dual-firing speakers in the industry.
8 Plus have wireless charging, which is something you're actually going to use. They also both have IP,
which you can't easily muffle, while in the case of the OnePlus 6T, it's very easy to cover the speaker by accident and kill content consumption.
Pretty cheap, and they have all the same features, or at least most of the same features.
Just as much as it is easy to forget the dongle on both phones, as neither has a headphone jack. That same hurdle in consuming content can be found in watching videos in full screen, with the horrible notch on the iPhone, with the 6T offering a more subtle approach. Yes, I know there is a purpose for the notch in the case of Face ID for the iPhone XS, but I honestly prefer the on-display fingerprint scanner on the 6T as a less intrusive solution, and with Face to Unlock only serving as a complement. Comparing specifications is probably not worth it. We know iPhones aren't famous for numbers as much as they are for efficiency. The iPhone XS does pack a punch with the A12, which is the world's first 7nm processor on a phone, which is a good technical term for theoretical faster performance and more efficiency, but which I haven't really been able to notice in real-world use. The OnePlus 6T, on the other hand, sports the 10nm Qualcomm Snapdragon 845, which is already quite proven in both departments. The 6T wins with more RAM, a better starting storage at 128GB, and a larger battery size, while the XS wins in going up to 512 gigs of storage, an IP rating, and wireless charging. If you're in the United States, both devices technically only work as single SIM phones, mainly because the iPhone's eSIM is still not supported by major carriers, and going dual SIM on the OnePlus 6T actually requires the international variant. The T-Mobile variant is single SIM only. When it comes to the conversation of iOS versus Android, let's avoid the sword fight. Let me just say that these two phones offer the best experience out of their respective operating systems. iOS 12 is now far leaner than before, with a crazy fast interface and some of my favorite gestures to operate a phone. The OnePlus 6T is no slouch though. Project Boost allows all the extra RAM to be used to help speed up applications, and I have to say that it has better gestures for navigation, mainly because they have flexibility. If you want buttons or the Pixel Pill or swipes, you can pick your favorite way to interact. I also like the features like game mode, where notifications don't bother your experience playing with the OnePlus 6T, where the iPhone is mostly hit or miss about the experience, though I will praise iOS for having earlier access to hot gaming titles in some cases. But going back to the topic of flexibility, this is really the beauty of the OnePlus 6T. Android is more versatile and less boring than the grid of icons that Apple has been reluctant to change since 2007. Sure, your iPhone will get software updates quicker, but OnePlus has proven it can do a better job than other OEMs at delivering quick updates for Android as well. I'd call the OnePlus 6T a winner on this one, though honestly, when it comes to software, that's just a matter of taste. Another spot where I'd say the OnePlus 6T wins is in the overall experience of using both phones as daily drivers. For starters, the only device that ends the day on a charge is the OnePlus 6T. It also includes the fastest charging in the industry in the box, which the iPhone lacks. Sure, the XS Max has a better battery, but we chose not to do that phone for the comparison because it was even more expensive. Another spot where the OnePlus 6T wins is in data speeds. Sure, both devices are technically capable of gigabit LTE, but I recently ran tests on 57th and 7th in New York City using the same T-Mobile network on both devices, and the 6T just demolishes the iPhone by at least 40 megabits down on all 6 of the tests that I conducted. Phone calls are about the same in quality, though I do consider the iPhone to do a better job with the speakerphone. Now, in the camera department, OnePlus won the last comparison by a long shot, but Apple has clearly worked hard on getting the iPhone XS up to speed. This newer iPhone brings significant improvements to dynamic range and detail, things I actually praised about the OnePlus 6 in my previous comparison. The iPhone does tend to be warmer in photography during the day, but I can't really declare a winner when the scenarios are bright. It's when we go into low light that both photos look good on the display, but once you pull them into the computer, you do notice added lens flaring and artifacts on the OnePlus 6T, which are things that are really not a problem on the XS. I'm not saying that the photos on the 6T are bad, but the XS is doing a better job in my opinion. Portrait mode is good on both, with the 6T bringing a more natural result in my opinion, even if the iPhone has the advantage of letting you tone down the bokeh after the fact. I'd give points to the 6T on selfies for the crop, but I find results to be a tad washed out when compared to the iPhone in low light. Now, where the iPhone XS just obliterates the OnePlus 6T is in video recording. Both devices have the same options for 4K at 60, super slow-mo, great stabilization, etc., but the iPhone is able to provide way more detail and less sharpening in the video. And I'll say the same about selfie video, where the iPhone provides far better results in skin tones. Apple has definitely raised the bar when it comes to the camera, but the OnePlus 6T, again, is no slouch for the most part. It just doesn't win in every single scenario. To conclude, let me just say that this comparison is as tough as it is easy. See, both devices excel in hardware, they sport the best versions of software of the respective operating systems, and with everything else being relatively similar between both devices for the most part. So let's go back to that initial premise when we began the video. Are you really getting $500 more of a phone with the iPhone XS when compared to the OnePlus 6T? My answer is no, you aren't. If you were to narrow down the things that every user cares about, like battery life, data connectivity, and storage, the iPhone XS is even inferior to the OnePlus 6T. Now, don't get me wrong, I get it. There are people out there that love their iPhones, and the iPhone XS is a great phone in many ways. I just have to admit that the OnePlus 6T is proof that you don't need to pay so much for a great phone. My conclusion continues to be the same as in my previous comparison. If it were my money, I would definitely buy the OnePlus 6T instead. How about you? Which one would you pick out of these two? Chime in the comments, and while you're at it, make sure you follow us on social media. Subscribe to both our channels, English and Spanish, for more videos like this one. You can follow me on Twitter, Jaime_Rivera, on Instagram at Jaime Rivera. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like what you saw. I'm Jaime Rivera. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.